So welcome everybody to our final of 3 webinars to walk you through the ins and outs of using iNaturalist Canada to record and identify what you find in the forest in this year's City Nature Challenge. So this again will focus on making observations in forests, and I will give you a little bit of background and James will walk you through some live demonstrations. First, I would like to begin by acknowledging with immense gratitude the land in which the Canadian Wildlife Federation is located on and where we live, work, and play is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin people have inhabited and cared for these lands long before today, and we take this time to be grateful for their care and show our gratitude and respect to them and to the land that it provides to all of us. So my name is Acacia from Pongmanso, and I am the iNaturalist Engagement Coordinator here at CWF.
And I'm James Page. I'm Species at Risk and Biodiversity Specialist, as well as working on community science here at Canadian Wildlife Federation.
So this webinar, as well as all the past 2 webinars we had last week, Friday, as well as Thursday, will have been recorded and will be available on CWF's website. The easiest way to find the webinars are to Google CWF webinars, and there you can find recordings of past webinars, as well as announcements for upcoming webinars. So this presentation is supposed to provide an overview to iNaturalist Canada, City Nature Challenge, and how to make observations in forest settings. And this can hopefully be useful for not only beginner iNat users, but also experienced ones. So just to go over some housekeeping rules, I'm in charge of the chat today, so if you're having technical issues, please reach out to me and I can do my best to help you. Often if the problem persists, leaving and rejoining often corrects things. For some reason, if we get cut off, please rejoin using the same link that you used to register. If time permits, we will do a Q&A at the end, but I will do my best to get through as many questions during the presentation as we can. And for individuals who are hearing impaired, please click the live transcription at the bottom of the screen to show subtitles. So a little bit of information about Canadian Wildlife Federation and the programs that we offer. CWF is one of Canada's largest conservation organizations, undertaking projects and conservation across the country. Our mission is to conserve and inspire the conservation of Canada's wildlife and habitats, and we do that in a number of ways. One is through engaging the public and youth in citizen science, like the iNaturalist Canada app, as well as webpage. We also have educations programs such as the Wild Outside program and the Canadian Conservation Corps program. And we also do specific projects in freshwater, marine, and terrestrial environments, many of which target species at risk like the right whale, the Blanding's turtle, and at-risk bats, and the monarch butterfly. And CWF is leading the national-wide push for the City Nature Challenge in Canada, as you will hear more about. At its core, iNaturalist is a community, and it's all about people who contribute observations, identifications, and feedback to each other and to the creators of the platform. This can all be done through the iNaturalist app or at iNaturalist.ca. We have over 13 million observations here in Canada with nearly 40,000 different species, and the map that's being shown now shows the concentrations of where those observations are being made. This information is accessible for conservation decisions as well as education, where people can learn more about what species are found right around them. So our Canadian observations all feed into the global iNaturalist platform that encompasses 20 other countries, each with their own iteration translated into their local languages. So iNaturalist Canada is run and managed by the Canadian Wildlife Federation, and we do so with the support of key partners for the creation and the maintenance, and those partners are NatureServe Canada as well as Parks Canada. So started in 2016 as a friendly competition between Los Angeles and San Francisco, the City Nature Challenge has grown into an international event motivating people around the world to find and document wildlife in their own cities. Last year, over 440 cities took part, including 40 from Canada. And this year, there are over 600 cities ready to take part. run by the community science team at the California Academy of Sciences and the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. The City Nature Challenge is an annual 4-day global BioBlitz at the end of April, where cities are in collaboration meets friendly competition to see what can be accomplished when we all work towards a common goal. But it takes everyday people to contribute, not just experts. Observations recorded using the iNaturalist app or online within participating cities will automatically be added to the city, Canada, and global total. So the City Nature Challenge takes part in two parts. The first part is happening from April 26th to April 29th, which is the recording period. This will be a big push to get people out recording observations using iNaturalist, either the app or online, and uploading your images from your digital camera. All the observations recorded within the city will automatically be added to the project, so all people have to do is snap and upload photos during this time. And from April 30th to May 5th, people can finish uploading observations, and this is the key period for identifying what other people found during City Nature Challenge. But it takes everyday people to contribute again, not just experts. Observations recorded using the iNaturalist app or online within participating cities again are automatically added to the city total, the Canadian total, as well as the global total. And while we understand that the timing isn't ideal for us here in Canada, that is why CWF is leading the charge for a Canada-specific City Nature Challenge within the global one to level the playing field so we can have a friendly competition between all of our Canadian cities. And once it's underway, this is a spot where you will see all the observations coming in real time and the leaderboard of which cities are battling for the top spot. Well, it's not required to join the global or the Canada specific City Nature Challenge project for your observations to count. It's a great way to keep updated as we post messages in the project so you can be notified about those changes. But not all cities are participating, so people who are living in a non-participating city but still want to take part in the City Nature Challenge this year, you can check out the global project here, and it's featured on the iNaturalist.ca/projects link. You'll be able to join this project for your observations to count, but please don't join this project if you're going to be making observations within a participating city already. So the focus of this webinar today is forests, and forests are diverse ecosystems that cover approximately 31% of the Earth's land area. They are classified into various types based on factors like climate, geography, and dominant tree species, and they can vary from tropical rainforest to temperate rainforest to boreal forests, and they each have their own unique characteristics and ecological significance. Forests play a crucial role in maintaining a global ecological balance. They help regulate climate by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. Forests also provide habitat and food for a vast array of plants and animal species, contributing to biodiversity conservation. And additionally, they support numerous ecosystem services such as soil stabilization, water purification, and flood control. And they host a diverse array of life there, and they all are specialized and adapt to their specific environments and conditions. So now I'm going to pass it over to James, who will be talking more about how to make observations in forest settings and what kind of things we should be looking for when we head out to the forest for City Nature Challenge.
Great, thank you, Acacia. I'm going to walk through a little bit of kind of a how-to from the field, virtually from the field, on uploading observations. So a great place to start, for those of you who have attended the last two webinars, you'll recognize the kind of the beginning of this. And a great place to start with looking at observations is, of course, Google Maps. And I'm going to bring up my screen here to walk you through things. All right, so as I mentioned, Google Maps is a great place to kind of see what's going on around your cities. And of course, the satellite view, you can pick out these forested areas pretty easily. And as we zoom in, you can notice that there's often trails that are mapped on Google Maps. You can really easily see these forested areas throughout. And I am going to walk us through similar area to where we were when we were exploring the wetlands on Friday, but Merbeler Bog. This time we're going to drop into the upland area and the forested areas of Merbeler. So the first thing we think about forests, obviously, is trees. A photo of a bunch of trees like this from a distance isn't really ideal, but I'm going to walk you through how to get a better capture to better identify a tree species using iNaturalist. But beyond the trees, there's obviously forest edges. So we're not just looking at forest habitat. There's edges along the forest, which will have different species then right deep into the forest. There's nearby wetlands, which we know about from our webinar the other day. There's also remnant vegetation that can be recorded. Some of these stems and flowering area bodies from previous years is also admissible as unnatural observations. There's also things like vernal pools. So these are temporary wetlands down within forests that will have different species as well. So we're going to walk into the forest. One of these first things we see here is a line of trees, a very distinctive line. This is a quick indication that these are not naturally occurring trees. A straight line of a planted is a good indication of planted trees. So we're going to skip by these ones and not record this as part of the City Nature Challenge because we're really looking for natural species. Even if they're non-native, but they're naturally occurring, that's what we're looking for the City Nature Challenge. You still can record these, and I'm going to show you in the app what you're going to want to do to check to note that this is a non-natural, so a planted, cultivated, or captive species. So as we walk through this area here, even obviously conifers are notable all time of year. In the springtime, when we're looking at, this is a great example because this is kind of what our vegetation is going to be looking like. Even these deciduous trees still do have some remnant leaves, and Google Maps is slowly advancing as we go. So we'll notice that even some of these deciduous trees like oaks and beeches will still carry the leaves through the winter and into the spring as well. So those are still admissible observations. So as we're getting up closer to here, we can see this one has quite a few leaves on it. As we want to take an observation, this will be our first one. Now, a photo again like this from a distance isn't really all that helpful to identify the tree. So we're going to walk through exactly what we're going to want to do here. First things first is we're going to open our iNaturalist app. It's going to look like this as you, once you sign into your account, it's going to have a list of all your species. If you just recently created an account, that's okay. This will look blank, but it'll still be the same kind of main screen. Now I'm going to walk through the Android version of the app. The iPhone version is slightly different, but the steps are all exactly the same. The buttons pretty much the same. They just might have a little bit of a different look. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to tap the plus, which will give us the option to take a photo. We're going to choose to take a picture. With deciduous trees, we can actually see leaves on the ground from last year. So this is a good first place to look as well. Something like this, again, isn't really going to be helpful to discern a species from. So we're going to want to get a little bit closer on this. But something else is a bit of an aside to look at is on the trunk, on the bark, and even within the leaves, we can look for evidence of insects. And I wanted to bring up this great observation, which is a elm leaf that was taken in the Ottawa area. And this species, the elm zigzag softfly, this insect is identifiable by the chew pattern it leaves in a leaf. And so this is actually a somewhat easily identifiable species because it's very distinctive and it's only on elm leaves, I should say. So yeah, this is just an example of something else that can be identified from just a leaf from the leaf litter as well. And it's able to be confirmed by experts and is actually identifiable and a valid species occurrence in iNaturalist. So anyway, I'm going to bring us back to our oak tree that we're looking to take a picture of though. And so we want to get a good picture of the leaf. I've got it on the background of the trunk as well to add extra information. If you can get the leaf still on the tree, you can take a picture of that. If you find one on the ground, you can hold it up. We're going to tap to take the picture. If you need to kind of take a better picture. If it happens to not be in focus, you can tap the back button, or if it's a good photo and you want to use this one for your observation, you tap the check mark, which will then bring it to your observation screen here. Notice that the date and location is already added. They're already added to the observation, which it gets pulled off your cell phone to tag that as it tags that picture. If you happen to not see this, just especially the location, check that in your settings of your phone that you have given permission of the iNaturalist app to access your location services. Also want to look at the accuracy, and we're going to go through a bit about that in a later observation. And notice below this, we have the location visibility. Now, this is how your observation will show up on the iNaturalist map and how others can see it. The default is set to open, which means it will be mapped at that exact location with a kind of buffer of that 7-meter accuracy around that point. Now, if you happen to be in maybe a sensitive area where it might drive a lot of traffic to see that observation, or if it's in your backyard and you don't want your house mapped exactly, when you tap on this, and I don't have a screenshot of it, but if you tap on this, it'll give you 2 other options. One will be obscured, which puts a buffer around that observation that you took. And it's a large buffer, and the true point is kind of randomized within that. And so people can't figure out exactly where you were. Now, the other option that'll show up is private. This we want to use very sparingly, if at all. I don't think I ever used this option. This will basically not show your observation on the map, but it won't look like that species was found there at all. So nobody will find it. Nobody will see that you recorded that observation, which makes it not very useful for conservation, as we're looking to use this data for conservation purposes that can be informed by research. It can inform researchers. It can be used for education. So we really want to make this data accessible as much as possible. Notice below this here is this captive or cultivated. This is the checkbox, as I mentioned, with that red pine plantation that you would want to check to note that, to flag in the app and to others that this is a non-naturally occurring species. For the City Nature Challenge, we do not need to do anything with adding to projects. So all your observations within participating cities in those boundaries will automatically get added from the 26th of April until the 29th. So you don't have to tap anything with there. Now, adding additional photos is better to help identify the species. So we're going to tap the camera button. And again, we're going to choose to take a photo. Again, it brings up your camera, take your photo. I'm getting the bark in this case, and we tap the check mark. Now we'll see both photos are added to this observation. Here, so everything up until this point can be done offline using the app. It can pull the GPS location, it can add the dates, it can add the photos. But here we're going to tap to identify. And this, you can tap it, what did you see? And you can write in the species name. And you can still do this offline, but what it won't do offline is using the image recognition software. So iNaturalist can identify the species or provide suggestions of what that species is based on the image, the photo itself, as well as species seen nearby. Now this you can't do offline, but I'm going to talk about a workaround to be able to do that after the fact. And we notice the wording here says that they're not confident enough to make a recommendation. We do have the red oak, which this is one of the top one, but it's also looking at these other ones. And I'm thinking, because people take a lot of observations of insects chewing on leaves, as we mentioned before, that iNaturalist is not sure if we're trying to get the leaf or a chew pattern potentially. So what we can do is a really cool feature is if we tap the filters, we can scroll down and select just plants and tap the check mark. And now this is just filtering and showing observations of plants alone. And now it's more confident in its identification. And again, red oak is the top species that it suggests. We can also swipe to use the second photo in this that we've taken. Using the tree bark is not as accurate as a really good defined leaf pattern. So we're going to swipe back and use the leaf. We're going to tap the red oak species. And oh, I don't have it. It's supposed to go back to, yeah, there we go. Back to the observation screen, and we have red oak now as our species. So we're going to tap the check mark, and now it's added as in our list of species to upload. Now I've got my app set to not just automatically push it into iNaturalist right away. I want to have a look at these species before I choose to upload them that everybody else could see. mostly because this doesn't use data on my phone then. I can wait until I get back to Wi-Fi, but also it allows me to check my observations and then also use the image recognition software after the fact so that I can identify the species, help identify the species, and it's a bit quicker to go through the field and just snap photos, use the app, and not identify everything on site and can do it after the fact. So if you want to do that, you can tap the three bars up here, which is a menu. You scroll down to the settings and make sure the automatic upload is unchecked. We go back to our menu and then we tap our name or observations and it brings us back to our same home screen. Okay, so we're going to jump back into the field here and continue our walk. So something, obviously this time of year, it's kind of similar to what a lot of us will see. There's not a lot of leaves on the trees, but we'll notice, I'm sure most people can figure out that this species, or if they don't, it's pretty distinctive. This is a paper birch or white birch. So again, bark works. If we look around to the side, this right beside it is a yellow birch. This back here might be a red oak, might be an ash. It's hard to tell with the blurriness of the Google imagery, but it's obviously different from those other two tree species. So even if we don't know what it is, there's a lot of people who are really good at bark ID. If you get a good photo of that tree and of the kind of the growth pattern of that tree, others can help identify that. So the other thing obviously we'll see or hear potentially in the forest areas, and you may need to turn up your sound for this. We will also hear birds calling, right? So that's also a valuable, valid iNaturalist observation. So we're going to pull out our iNaturalist app, tap the plus button again, and in this time we're going to choose to, or we're going to tap record a sound. So we tap, it brings up the sound recording option. You're going to tap to record and record the sound that the bird is making. If it stops calling, you can always tap the pause button and wait for it to call again. When you have a good sound recording, you can tap the save button. And now it's brought the sound recording into the app instead of a photo. There's no sound auto ID in iNaturalist, so you're going to have to write in the species name as opposed to using the image recognition software the way you can for images. You can also add an extra photo the way we did, or add a photo the way we did with the oak tree just now. And even better is if you have a digital camera with a zoom where you can actually zoom in and get a decent photo of the bird in the trees, which is much better. You can also then add that to your observation after the fact in the iNaturalist app. And if you check out the wetlands webinar that we did last week, that will walk you through the steps on how to do that. You can also do this on iNaturalist online as well. If you go to your observation after you've uploaded, go to that observation, and you can click the edit button. I think it's in the top right corner of that, so you'll be able to do it there. Now, even another option as well is if you could skip the app altogether and go through with a digital camera or your phone and just take pictures, and then you can upload all those after the fact straight to iNaturalist.ca and not go through the app. We have a video tutorial on how to do that in the help section of iNaturalist.ca that will walk you through all those steps, but you don't have time to get into that now, but you can check out that video tutorial as well. So here we're going to tap what did you see to identify the species. Now, if you don't know what that bird call is, totally fine. We know it's a bird though, right? So we can start writing in birds, and we're going to tap birds that come up. You have to tap this as well to kind of classify it, categorize it as a known species type that iNaturalist can verify. So if you write in birds and just tap up here, it's not going to put into the birds taxon in the official iNaturalist kind of list as well. So now we have it as birds, and it's better to identify it as birds as just leaving it as unknown, because people who are going through to identify bird calls or bird photos, they'll often filter those observations just based on that species group. So this will kind of bring it to their attention if they're scrolling through observations or searching observations to help identify. So this is better than leaving it as nothing. You can also add a note in here, which is good, especially for birds to kind of note where the habitat it was found. Certain birds near wetlands are found more near wetlands versus upland areas, so that can help as well. I'm going to tap the check mark, and again, it adds to our list of species that we're going to upload after the fact. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to walk a little bit further down the trail, and going to look around on the edges of this trail, and we're going to stay on trail as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about that afterwards. Especially as we're near wetlands, under some of this woody debris, so logs and stuff on the ground is a great place to look as well. Near wetlands, we may have salamanders that are under the logs at this time of year as well. So what we're going to do this time, though, instead of using the iNaturalist app right away, we're going to get our camera ready. So we are going to bring up the camera of our phone. So this is not within the app. This is opening the camera setting that you have on your cell phone. There's a couple of advantages to that. One, you can just take a bunch of pictures right away without having to check, and upload the photo. So it's a little quicker to take a bunch. So because a salamander or a snake or something that's under a log or a rock may scurry away or bury themselves. This is great because it avoids you having to try and handle an animal, which we will definitely want to avoid. And so you can have your camera ready to take that shot. It also allows you to access a few other modes in your camera, like portrait or macro, and that can kind of really helps with insects or small things that you can really focus on the foreground and use those different camera settings that you don't have available to you if you use it in the iNaturalist app. Another cool thing you can do is you can flip it to selfie mode, which can work well for getting different angles, like sometimes underneath the underside of a mushroom to capture the gills, you can flip the camera over and take an underneath photo without having to pick anything, or you can get different angles that way. And your first shot may look like this, but as you kind of have your camera, you can take as many as you want, and you can get a good photo of a salamander that may be under that log. Once you've got your great photo, you're going to want to put that habitat back, right? This is the salamander's home and cover. You want to obviously make sure that the salamander or whatever was underneath that is out of the way, or has buried themselves down in the dirt a bit more, that you gently roll the log back to make sure that you're not going to harm this at all. Now we're going to open up the iNaturalist app. So we go back into our apps, we open up the iNaturalist app, tap the plus, and this time we're going to choose an image instead of take the photo because we already have our photo. This is going to open up your an option to choose where you store your photos from in your files, brings up your pictures, you tap the image you want to use, and then you tap done, and it's going to bring the image in. Again, the location, the date and location are added to the app, but in this case, and in my phone and some others in particular, it cannot pull an accuracy off of a geotagged photo. So notice here, there's no accuracy mentioned. So this is a case where we're going to want to tap on the location, which will bring up a map. And this will likely be zoomed right into that GPS location that it did geotag, like it tagged in your photo when you took it, but it won't have that accuracy, but this should default to zooming in, and you should have Google Maps in the background that you should be able to see even if you're offline. Now, this right now is showing I have an accuracy of 351 meters, which I know is quite large based on where I was. You can tap on the GPS button here, which will then kind of automatically kind of zoom down to the GPS signal on the accuracy that it can get using the app. And now we have an accuracy of 15 meters. If it doesn't do that, you can use your, the normal way you would zoom or scan on Google Maps by pinching in your screen to zoom yourself right into where you were. You can also use, if you have data, the satellite view as well in the background, which can help kind of pinpoint exactly where you are. So once you're zoomed into a reasonable distance, you can tap the check, and we'll see this in our observation screen. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're just going to say, okay, we don't know exactly what this is, and it's uploaded as an unknown species. Now, after the fact, we can go back in, say we're back at Wi-Fi later on. We can edit this and use the image recognition software because maybe we didn't have Wi-Fi when we were out in the field. So we're going to tap the unknown species, brings us to this page. We can tap edit. Now we can tap what do you see, and it gives us the image recognition options, and we can tap the species that we believe it is. Now we have blue spotted salamander. Tap the check button, brings us back to the screen. We have blue spotted salamander in here, and tap back. And this is where we want to, now we're back at Wi-Fi, we can tap the upload button to bring these all into iNaturalist itself, that it gets added to the City Nature Challenge and your observations and the Canada-wide tally. So as a recap, I want to leave with this note on leaving no traces. I mentioned to be gentle with salamanders and things as we're moving, cover boards, make sure we put things back. I mentioned staying on the trail. These are a few other things we should think about as we're out exploring with iNaturalist, but also all year round and everywhere we are. So to think about, there's a lot of diversity in and around forests. There are different species that you'll find in different parts of the forest. You can look at the trees, don't forget about the bark, especially this time of year when there may not be leaves on your deciduous trees. And even dead plants like milkweeds and other plants that are still have their stalks from last year are good observations that we can record. Also many insects. Keep an eye on the tree bark. You may have caterpillars or moths or other things that are on the bark of the tree. And in general, the better your photo, the more clear and the more distinguishing features you can gather, the better it is that the image recognition software will work, but also the rest of the iNaturalist community can help identify your species. So with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we have a few days left before the City Nature Challenge, which starts on Friday for the observation period. And so you can get out, practice up, and be ready to go on Friday.
Perfect. If we do have time for one question, James, somebody just wants to know if I were to select obscure for an observation, but at a later date, I wanted to revert it back to its original location. Would the original location be restored? And if I were to obscure it, would a project manager still have access to the data and would it still be useful?
Yeah, good question. It's definitely retroactive, so it will, if you do it after the fact, will unobscure that. And yes, some projects are set that you want to that if you want to allow your obscured observations to be visible to the project creators. So there's some people that are like research and conservation organizations that have projects on some of the species that we may want to obscure. They can set that, and you can trust them. It's called with your observations, and you do that at the time of joining a project.
Perfect. I think that may be all the time we have for questions today. There are a few we didn't get to, but we do have a help resource at naturalist.ca where you guys can check out some of the resources we have there.
And if you're wanting to know more about the obscured process, within that help section, there's a geo-privacy link, which will talk all about obscuring, which there's some species that are automatically obscured because they're sensitive to poaching or collection or overviewed. So you can, within the help section, there's a whole page that talks about obscuring and why you may or may not want to do that. And so, yeah, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining, and hopefully everybody can get out and record a few observations now that you've got some resources and some tutorials. And if you didn't catch the other two webinars, we have one specifically on urban areas and one on observing in wetlands to help you guide you along the way. They have covered the similar things, but there's a few extra little tidbits in there of different things you can do with the iNaturalist app. Thanks everyone for your time, and the recording should be available in the next day or two, where the link I put into the chat. But your best option is, in case you said at the beginning, is you can Google CWF webinars and you'll be able to find that page.
Thanks, everyone.